I was thinking, I think he's turned. Like, I genuinely think that at 37 weeks, I feel like he's turned. Like, you know, like one of those Lego figures, and they've got two legs, but it's like one thick leg. Like, my legs genuinely felt like that. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all okay. Today I thought I would finally get around to filming my birth story. So Ronnie is now 12 weeks old, and yeah, I guess I just haven't had time to film this, so I'm filming it now. So if you're new around here and you didn't follow me whilst I was pregnant, you may not know that I was diagnosed with preeclampsia quite severely towards the end of my pregnancy. So, well, not the very end, but I think I was diagnosed at around 30 weeks. So the last sort of what would have been 10 weeks of my pregnancy were destined to be not that great, really. But yeah, if you want to hear my birth story and what went on, then just continue to watch. So yeah, I was diagnosed with preeclampsia at around 30 weeks pregnant. So it all started with a midwife appointment where I didn't quite feel myself. I had sort of slight swelling, but it wasn't overly dramatic. I'd had sort of protein in my urine, and my blood pressure was slowly creeping up, but nothing of a worrying sort of blood pressure reading. So if you don't know about preeclampsia is basically a condition which nobody really knows why it happens or where it comes from. No one in my family before had preeclampsia, so my mum didn't have it, my sister didn't have it, so it was literally just me. Yeah, it was pretty scary, to be fair. At first I went to my midwife with all of these symptoms, and it didn't really seem like a massive deal. She said that these could just be normal pregnancy symptoms. I was like in the third trimester, and a bit of swelling is pretty normal when you're pregnant. And then it got to the extent where I had to take my rings off, nothing fit anymore, and I genuinely was really swelling up. So it was only a couple of days after I saw my midwife that I then went to my doctor, and he took my blood pressure reading, and the reading was very high. So he then phoned the maternity hospital, and they asked me to come in. So I went over there with an overnight bag because I had no idea what to expect. And yeah, they confirmed that I had preeclampsia. At this stage it wasn't overly severe, however I would need regular monitoring, regular growth scans to check that baby was okay, and basically it would get worse. So they already warned me that it would get progressively worse up to the birth of my baby. So they kept me in at that stage at about 31 weeks. They kept me in, I think it was for about a week. So I was in the hospital for around a week with constant blood pressure checks, blood tests, scans, heartbeat checks on baby, that type of thing. And yeah, it was pretty daunting, to be fair. Like, I'd never stayed in hospital before, so all of a sudden I'm having to stay there without my partner. I'm heavily pregnant. I have no idea what's going on with my body. Like, this is not something that I've ever come across before. And yeah, it was daunting. I was then discharged on the basis of I had to go back to day unit like genuinely about 4 or 5 times a week. So I was backwards and forwards, and I was always told to take an overnight bag to my day appointments, because if my blood pressure reading was abnormal or if it was worrying, they would keep me. They had told me at this point that I wouldn't go full term, so they said that I would more than likely have my baby by around 38 weeks. They said that if things had got progressively worse quickly, then they would deliver. So when I was kept in for the week, I was given steroid injections to inflate baby's lungs, and all of these things are things that I never ever expected in my third trimester. So in my third trimester I fully expected to be like having a baby shower and fully enjoying my last like few weeks of pregnancy, but I just didn't. I woke up every single day like feeling like I just had a cloud above my head, and it was just genuine worry. So everyone else was worried about me, but I was just worried about my baby, and I just wanted to know that he was okay and that he would be okay, and that everything that I was doing, like preparing and getting everything ready, washing his clothes, I almost couldn't enjoy because I didn't know if it would be okay. Like, in my mind, I just didn't know that, and I almost didn't want to believe it either, that, you know, things would turn out okay, and they did turn out okay. They turned out absolutely perfectly. So after being discharged, I went back to the day unit like about 4 or 5 times a week for my blood pressure checks. I was then readmitted, I think it was around 34 weeks. I was readmitted and I was kept again, I think it was for around 4 nights this time. Same sort of thing, like regular blood pressure checks, blood tests, and they did advise me that the preeclampsia had got progressively worse, and by this point I could feel it. I was like fully swollen to the extent where I'm a size 3 shoe and I was wearing a size 6 boot, and it wasn't fun, it really wasn't. And when I look back now, I genuinely don't know how I remained so positive, and it does haunt me a bit, to be fair. Yeah, I just think it was, for such a happy time in my life, that really put a downer on it. But yeah, I tried to carry on. I was discharged again. They said to me that I wouldn't go full term and they would expect to see me again soon. So basically I was just living like on edge, not knowing what was going to come next, and I just really wanted to plan. I just wanted to know when I was going to have my baby, and you know, I just wanted to know what my body was doing and why this was happening, but I just couldn't get those answers because nobody knew. So from like a medical professional point of view, they wanted to make sure that I was okay, but at the same time they wouldn't deliver sooner than necessary because of course baby, they wanted him to be like fully developed, and the more time that he's sort of inside, they said that the better it is. So I just kind of sat back and held tight for as long as I could. So on my 36th week, so near the end of my 36th week, I went over to an appointment, but I was also a bit worried because I felt like I was leaking fluid. So I didn't know if my waters were going, so I went over there to my appointment and I mentioned this. My other half was with me and they done like examinations and things, and they said that my waters weren't leaking, or not that they could see. Whilst I was there, because of obviously the appointment I had anyway and my condition, they double checked like my blood pressure and things, and she popped the blood pressure thing on, and my blood pressure was genuinely the highest it's ever been. It was sky high, so I think it was like 185 over 100, and she said, this can't go on, this is dangerous now, and basically we need to keep you. So luckily I had that good old overnight bag that I took back weekly, and yeah, they kept me, and I spoke to a doctor that evening. This was like very, very late, and he said that he would be surprised if they didn't deliver in the next couple of days. So I stayed overnight, and my consultant came round the next morning and she basically said that enough is enough. I've basically spent more time at the hospital than I had at home by this point. She joked and said that I may as well have residency there, which quite frankly I may as well have. And yeah, they said that it was no longer fair on me, so they scheduled me in. Now I was scheduled in for a cesarean section, a planned one. This was partly my choice but also partly medically advised. So my blood pressure was that high that it wouldn't have been safe for me to give birth naturally for my own health, and baby would have more than likely got into distress, and they said that it would more than likely lead to a C-section anyway, so what's the point in inducing me, putting me through all of that to end up in a section anyway. So I was absolutely fine with that. My baby was breech as well, so I didn't particularly want to give birth to a breech baby naturally. That's just my point of view. So I was happy to schedule in a section. So they scheduled in a section for the following morning. All of a sudden I just felt so much better. I knew that within a matter of like 24 hours my baby would be here, and yeah, I just felt like everything was going to be fine and they knew what they were doing, and yeah, I just felt a lot more positive then. So I called Will, let him know, and he came straight over to the hospital to spend the day with me there, brought all baby stuff, and we were beginning to just get really excited and think of names, because as of yet we had no names, or not one that we had decided on. That day I was given like all of the prep, like they talk you through everything that they're going to do. You meet the anaesthetist, and you then go down and you get like a pre-op drink, and they give you like some special shampoo and things that you need to wash in, and shower gel, and they basically just talk you through the whole procedure. So up until this point my baby was breech, and when we went into the pre-op like little meeting, I felt very, very strange, and I had an awful lot of movement, like more movement than I've ever had. Like it genuinely made me feel sick, and I was thinking, I think he's turned. Like I genuinely think that at 37 weeks I feel like he's turned. So I didn't say anything, and I got ready for my C-section the following morning. So they wake you up at around 5 a.m. You have to shower, and you then go down to the like recovery waiting room for about 7 o'clock. So we got down there at 7, and there's always 3 C-sections in our hospital, elective ones. So I was last, which is always the way, isn't it? You want to get it over and done with, and then you're third on the list, but it's just the way it goes. And they said that my section would be at around 11 o'clock midday, which was fine. I was quite happy with that. So the first lady went down and she came back and it was all fine. The second lady then went down, and unfortunately things did go wrong. I'm not going to go into too much detail on here, but everything did end up fine, but she was on the operating table for an awful long time. I think it ended up about 6-7 hours in the end. So obviously my wait unfortunately was very, very long, and by the time it came to me being able to go down, the elective section team had finished. So they then said that they didn't know if they would be able to do it or not, and I was a bit like, well, I've gone like all this time with no food or drink, I've sat here waiting, I've psyched myself up for it, and I'm genuinely very ill. So I was then left waiting, and they finished for the day. Thankfully the lady and her baby, bless them, were absolutely fine, and to me that's, at that time, that's all that mattered, you know. Like, poor lady, her experience had gone absolutely terribly, and to me, although I really wanted to just get mine over and done with, at least she was okay. So I was then left and handed over to the labour ward. So basically the labour ward section team would only do a section if it was an emergency. So they then said to me that I was a priority, because if they had someone that was in labour, then they would need to obviously deal with those for a C-section, and they didn't really have time to fit me in. So I just had to kind of sit and wait and see if they had a slot where they could just quickly fit me in, which wasn't really ideal, to be honest. I was put on a drip because I was so dehydrated. I hadn't eaten for so long. It got to about 8 o'clock that evening, so I'd been there for like 13 hours, and somebody came down, one of the midwives, and she was like, look, we can fit you in. We've literally got the smallest slot. We can quickly fit you in and get your section done. So I was like, yep, let's go. So they took me down to theatre, and I remember the theatre being literally freezing, like so cold. Up to this point, like, I was so nervous. Although I knew that I was having my section, I had all that time to think about it and plan for it, I was still nervous. And it got to that point of walking down to theatre, and all of a sudden I just wasn't nervous anymore, because I was going to meet my baby, and all of this that I'd been through was about to be over. So yeah, all of those nerves I think turned into excitement, and I was overwhelmed. So they took me down, got me all set up and ready, and I didn't realise that in a section there was genuinely about 20 people around the bed. And I just remember like my legs feeling so heavy, to the extent where it genuinely felt like one leg. Like I felt like, you know, like one of those Lego figures, and they've got two legs but it's like one thick leg. Like my legs genuinely felt like that, and I was like, God, like where's my other leg? Like it just felt like one leg. And then the surgeon was about to begin the C-section. I suddenly realised that Will wasn't even in the room, and I was like, oh, where's Will? And she was like, oh gosh, like I'm really sorry, and she was about to start before Will was there, so someone ran off and got Will. He come in, and yeah, I think I was taken down to theatre initially at like 8:20, and Ronnie was born at 8:59, so it was really quick, and it was amazing, to be fair. Like people said to me that I may not get that initial like rush of love because it's a C-section, and I guess I didn't go through labour, but to me, like, childbirth is childbirth. Like no matter how you give birth, you've still done it, and a C-section isn't the easy way out because the recovery is pretty horrendous. And I mean, don't get me wrong, anyone that's watching this that's due a C-section, the recovery isn't, I mean, it's worse. When I say horrendous, it's worse than a natural birth. You have a natural birth, you have a few days of feeling pretty groggy, and then most of the time you're back to normal, or at least back on your feet. But with the C-section, it takes a lot longer. But I found that I just wanted to be determined to get up and about and kind of try and carry on as normal, but be kind to myself, because you've just had major surgery, and although it's childbirth, it's still major surgery, and you have to remember that you're not going to recover like really quickly. And I remember waking up on like my third day and thinking, God, why am I still so sore? Like, why do I literally feel horrendous? And you will, like, of course you will, because you've had major surgery, your body has been through so much, and also your hormones, everything is changing and trying to go back to normal, and you will feel emotional, you will feel teary, and it's okay to feel like that, and it's okay to let people know of that too, because I found it really quite difficult to like accept that I felt I'd just gone through like everything that I went through, and then I finally got everything that I've ever wanted, and I still felt emotional, but it's okay to feel like that. And I most definitely still got that rush of love. Like the minute that they held Ronnie up and I heard his cry, like that feeling is indescribable. It really is. Yeah, I was then taken back to recovery for a few hours after my section, and they like give you a wash and things, and you just like bond with baby. It's really nice. And then I went back to the ward, and that's when Will went home. I think by this point it was like 3 a.m. And then after that, like all my family came and visited for the next few days, which was really nice. I did have a bit of a pushback. I think it was around day 4. Yeah, day 4 after having Ronnie, and basically my blood test results came back and my iron levels were very low. I was really pale after having Ronnie. Like my skin was genuinely like a yellowy colour, and that was why, and I didn't realise. So I did have to stay in for quite a while after having Ronnie because I had to have 2 blood transfusions. Now when I look back, like when they told me I had to have blood transfusions, I really got in a bit of a state. And when I look back, like blood transfusions compared to what I'd been through previously with the preeclampsia was basically nothing. And yeah, it was just another little hiccup in the road, and once that was done we could finally go home with Ronnie. So basically that's my birth story. I mean, it could have been very straightforward. I'd always planned like a water birth, but obviously that couldn't happen because of my blood pressure and things. And it just shows that things can change so quickly. So I had a really easygoing pregnancy up until 30 weeks. I had no sickness. I had no symptoms really. I had a bit of SPD and sciatica, but that was it. Like I coped with that, and although that was painful, I did cope and I continued to go to work with that. But preeclampsia really did lead to a hiccup in the road. If any of you are watching and you're due a C-section, or you've got preeclampsia, or you've just been diagnosed with preeclampsia, perhaps you've had preeclampsia before and you're pregnant again and you're worried about it. I mean, I completely understand, and I would be worried too. Just always remember that things do turn out okay in the end, and you're in great hands with the care from the NHS. The care that I got from the NHS was second to none. I genuinely cannot fault them one bit. Like, honestly, the care and the time that they gave me too. I mean, each time that I went to the day unit and the maternity assessment unit, I was known. As in, I'd been there so many times, and I was so welcome. They genuinely felt sorry for me, like going in heavily pregnant 5 times a week, and basically I couldn't have a life. I could not have a life. But yeah, I'm sorry if this video birth story was not very positive, but I mean, I just wanted to get my birth story across because my birth story wasn't overly positive, but I'm trying to put forward that things do turn out okay in the end. And when I look back now, it does haunt me slightly, but it's getting easier by the day, and Ronnie is so worth it. So if you do go through this, or you're going through this and you're heavily pregnant, don't get me wrong, I had some days where I would wake up and just think, what am I doing? Like, I'm going through all of this, and at the time when you're pregnant, you haven't met that baby yet, and although you feel love for your baby, of course you do, because you're pregnant and you're carrying that baby, but you haven't met that baby yet, and the love that you feel when you're pregnant is nowhere near as strong as the love you feel when they're born and the weeks after. So just know that it 110% is worth it. But yeah, for now I will just be enjoying my lovely little boy, and yeah, I just feel lucky for everything to have turned out okay. And yeah, I will stop rambling now, but I hope you enjoyed my video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe, leave a comment, let me know of your birth stories, or if you're pregnant, drop a little comment. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, I'll see you soon. Bye.